Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Hart for those of you that are new. And today we have the NBA play-in special here for Tuesday night on DraftKings. We got the Lakers versus Pelicans and the Warriors versus Sacramento Kings. So should be great. It's the start of the NBA play-in, and then obviously the NBA playoffs coming here soon. So going to be breaking down this two-game slate here for you guys. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. You guys already know what to do. And before we get into it, just want to quickly recap. The past two or three slates have been really, really good for me. Here's the latest one I played. This was on Friday, so I know I've been skipping a few. Haven't been around as much the past few days, but I'm going to be locked in here for the NBA playoffs, NBA play-in, so expect that to be coming out. Expect videos to be coming out every day for these games. And PrizePicks are coming back soon. I don't think for this video, but for the next video, for the next play-in games, expect a PrizePicks video for that as well as just the normal DFS breakdown. But the core plays from the last slate from Friday in the Patreon were Scoot Henderson, Cam Whitmore, Trey Murphy, and Jock Landale. Really surprised Jock Landale was only 11.8% owned. Pretty much the cheapest, if not the cheapest interplay on the slate on the board. No one wanted him. But yeah, as you can see, solid there. 29th out of, what was it, about 743 people. If only Durant could have done more. There's 6% owned, of course. He only goes for 38. Very frustrating there. But yeah, could have been a really, really good night. Potential takedown. I don't know if potential takedown, but potential top 10 if Durant would have done something there. But moving on to this two-game slate here, let's start off with the first game here. So for the Lakers side, I think we expect a 9-man rotation out of them. AD, LeBron, D'Lo, Reeves, Hachimura, Dinwiddie, and then Hayes maybe, and then I would assume Prince, and you could possibly throw in Vincent. So they could get a little bit weird with like the 8th, 9th guy, depending on what they want to do. So I think the biggest question mark with this game is who wants to win? Like whoever wins this game is going to be playing the Nuggets. Or if you lose and then you win that second game between the 9 and 10, you have the ability to play the Thunder. I think both teams would rather play the Thunder than the Nuggets. Even though the Thunder won the number one spot, I mean, the Nuggets are just a better team overall. They won last year. They have the experience. Thunder are young. I think both teams would rather have the Thunder. So this is an interesting game because it's like, I think everyone's expecting Anthony Davis and LeBron to play. I mean, I am too, but it could be one of the scenarios where they rest one of their guys and, you know, both teams try to lose. Like, I would not be surprised if that happens. But with the news we have right now, we can expect a full go here. So expect them to start, obviously, Anthony Davis, LeBron, D'Lo, Reeves, and Hachimura there. Then off the bench, expect Dinwiddie and then Prince to kind of get the Dinwiddie will probably see anywhere from like 12 to 20 minutes. Prince is kind of the same thing. You know, Prince is definitely a little bit riskier, but he's been seeing around 20 minutes the past 3 games there. So I think we expect those two to guys to be the solid plays off the bench there, just in terms of the guys who are seeing minutes, not DFS solid. But then Hayes and Reddish and Vincent are going to be the guys who are question marks. Like Vincent has seen a few minutes here the past 3 games. Same thing with Hayes. But then Reddish has kind of fallen all the rotation after, you know, obviously starting, being a solid defender pretty much the whole season. Obviously got injured, came back, hasn't done a ton, hasn't really played a ton, but could be one of those scenarios where they throw him in there for defense. Who knows? But I really only feel confident with obviously the main 4 guys here. Ruiz more so of GPP, kind of a contrarian play for me, but obviously LeBron, Anthony Davis, I expect them to both probably play close to 40 minutes. Now, as I said, could be a chance the Lakers try to throw this game or the Pelicans do, or they both do, just because no one wants to play the Nuggets. Who knows? But obviously LeBron, AD look like fantastic spend-ups. I'd give the edge to AD when they're both priced about the same, even though I would assume more people are going to go to LeBron just because of that massive triple-double game there last game. But I think AD is just a little bit safer. LeBron probably has the higher ceiling just in terms of that triple-double upside. Even though Anthony Davis can go for like a 20-20 game with like 10 blocks. Possibility, but yeah, I think Anthony Davis gets the edge, but LeBron still looks really good. Really just depends on ownership for me when it comes down to choosing between these two studs. And then D'Lo and D'Lo and Reeves, kind of the same thing here. D'Lo's seen more steady minutes the past few games compared to Reeves, who has dealt with some foul trouble that last game against Memphis. But I think we expect Reeves' numbers to go back into the mid-30s minutes. And they're really pretty much priced the same. I think they're both really, really strong plays there in the guard spot if you want to get to either one of them. Hachimura is more so that, you know, kind of contrarian GPP play. I don't love him. Priced up to 5.7. Expect everything to go through LeBron, through AD. And then in terms of like the third option, I still think Reeves is probably the best. But obviously Russell showed a lot of upside there, especially with the assist as well. So I just think Rui it's really hard to trust him at that price tag. And for me, that's why he's just a more so contrarian play. Then I've already gone over the kind of the guys off the bench. I only feel confident in Dinwiddie and Prince in terms of their minutes. Don't like the price tag on either one of them. Prince, maybe if you want to take a dart throw on him. But other than that, the rest of the guys are just a little bit too risky for me to get to. So I do think as of right now, value is going to be hard to find on this slate. For the Pelicans side here, obviously with a fully healthy team, Ingram is back. He only played 23 minutes in that last game against the Lakers. They said expect him to play more minutes. I would assume we see close to 30. Once again, they could only play him 30. They can only play him 25 just because they don't want to win. Possibility you had to kind of factor in. No one wants to play the Nuggets, as I said before. I said multiple times throughout this video so far. But with that in mind, I want to show you guys this kind of the per 36 DraftKings points when it comes to the starting five here for the Pelicans. Obviously, when it comes to J-Val, good point per minute guy. But as we know with J-Val, his minutes have just been atrocious all season. So obviously, you can't trust that per 36 number because he never sees 36. And in that last game versus the Lakers, he only saw 7 minutes. Now, dealt with some foul trouble. They like to go small, but I think in a playoff game, they're going to need they're going to need him to play at least 15 minutes against Anthony Davis. Like, it's going to be a struggle for them to try to guard him and not have him go off with Larry Nance. They don't really have anyone else to throw him on him. So I'd expect at least 15 out of J-Val. Once again, still risky, but when it comes to a fully healthy team, I think Zion's really the only safe play here when it comes to the Pelicans' main 3 stars. 8.1K. Has a safe floor, has a really good ceiling. Obviously, he's been very aggressive. Obviously, that's been without Brandon Ingram back, but now that he's back, I still expect Zion to kind of be the main star, the main guy they go through. Obviously, if they do play small ball, Zion could be a center, still could be a running point at times. Obviously, a mismatch with Zion. So the Lakers did play him well earlier in the season. Obviously, he still did pretty solid there. Didn't shoot the best, but almost went for a triple-double there in that last game. But yeah, I think Zion's the safest. CJ and Brandon Ingram were more so contrarian plays for me. CJ's been playing really, really well, but that was without Brandon Ingram. We've seen games with Brandon Ingram back kind of hurting CJ's upside. And then in terms of Brandon Ingram, as I said, just a risky play here, 7.3 on a minutes limit. Don't know how many minutes he's going to play. So I think he's going to be super low owned. If you want to get contrarian, very risky, playing multiple lineups, you can definitely throw him in one. But I really only feel safe with Zion right now. CJ is a fine play. Ingram is very, very risky contrarian. And then in terms of the wings, I would expect Trey Murphy to move back to the bench with Brandon Ingram there. I'd assume they're going to start Zion, CJ, Brandon Ingram, Herb Jones, and J-Val. And then off the bench, they'll bring in Trey Murphy, Larry Nance, Dyson Daniels, and then Jose Alvarado. So kind of like a 9-man rotation. Possibly Najee Marshall if someone gets in foul trouble in the starting five. He could be a dart throw, but he's also one of the guys who I don't think he played that last game against the Lakers. Yeah, he didn't. So he could be out of the lineup, but he could be a possibility for you to get different if you're playing a ton of lineups for a cheap dart throw. But in terms of Trey Murphy and Herb Jones here, I give the edge to Herb Jones just because Trey Murphy's going to be coming off the bench. He is 6,000 and he will be aggressive off the bench, but Herb Jones, they're going to need his defense. He's 5.1. Not going to be a complete, he's not going to be a huge scorer there in the starting five, but more so he should see 35 minutes. If he can stay out of foul trouble, he's a guy who can, stuff the stat sheet when it comes to blocks and steals. And if he hits a couple threes, gets a couple rebounds, he could easily pay off his salary at 5.1. So I slightly prefer him to Trey Murphy, but I think both of them are pretty solid plays. Trey Murphy, I think sees anywhere from 25 to 33 minutes, depending on how the starters are playing. If they need some offense off the bench, so I don't mind him as a GPP play off the bench there. Slightly contrarian, more so a secondary play for me, but still pretty decent play. And then in terms of J-Val, just super super risky here for J-Val, kind of like a Brandon Ingram play. Like you don't know how many minutes he's going to play. I would assume at least 15 to guard Anthony Davis for a little bit, but it's really hard to get to him with any confidence. Larry Nance is going to be probably the chalkiest player, if not one of the chalkiest players on the slate, just because, he started that last, second game there against the Lakers, played 31 minutes. Okay point per minute guy there, 4.2. I mean, everything's just pointing to everyone's just stuffing Larry Nance into their lineups and going from there. So it's really hard to get away from him. Dyson Daniels, Jose Alvarado. I prefer Jose compared to Dyson, even though Dyson's a little bit better offensively and a better playmaker. Pretty much the same price tag. Really just comes down to ownership for me for these two if you're looking for like a cheap point guard dart throw play. And then as I said with Najee, could be out of the rotation, could be in. I wouldn't expect too many minutes out of him. Kind of like a Taurean Prince play where if you put him in your lineup, you're really hoping they see about 15 minutes and they get you to at least 15 fantasy points. And then moving on to the second game here, expect the Warriors to play for Steph Curry all the way down to Looney. Now, I'll get to those two at the bottom in a second here, but Steph Curry 8.7 feels very, very cheap. And same thing with Draymond Green at 6.4. My two favorite plays on the Warriors, pretty much my only two favorite plays on the Warriors this whole season. In terms of Klay Thompson, secondary GPP play, like if you want to get different, you can definitely go to Klay 6.2. We know the upside there if he hits the shots. You just never feel great about it. Kuminga, coming back from injury, played okay minutes, 23. Expect his minutes to go up a little bit here. 5.9. I don't love it with like a kind of a fully healthy team here. I really expect everything to go through Steph, go through Draymond and Klay. Obviously, Kuminga can have a solid game, but just with the price tags right now, I'm really just focused on Steph and Draymond. And then if I'm looking to get different in GPPs, I think obviously Klay is probably the best there in terms of just upside and price tag compared to Kuminga. Trades, if he gets a start, I think he's a fine play, 5.4. Chris Paul, Wiggins, Pods. I think Wiggins looks the best out of the three here. He's been playing better the past month and a half in terms of his season. He's kind of been a very up and down, has shown some flashes, but I expect close to 30 minutes from him, maybe low 30s minutes. So at 4.9 for him, I don't mind taking a dart throw on him. Paul and Pods, pretty much the same play here. Should see anywhere from like 18 to 25 minutes. They're fine if you land on them, but once again, I really just would rather go to Wiggins there and just get different with other guards on the slate. And then in terms of Moody and Looney, I feel more confident in Looney just because we've seen over the past few seasons with the Warriors playing the Kings, always really good games. And Looney's actually done very, very well in the playoffs against Sabonis. So I wouldn't be surprised if Trace plays. If he does okay or bad, expect him to get yanked very fast for Looney, who's actually done pretty good defense on Sabonis. So that's something to keep in mind, but obviously super risky because Looney could be out of rotation. You never know with Steve Kerr. Terrible coach. You never know. But I think Looney is probably my favorite dart throw play right now on the board there at 3.5. So I'll just throw him in here for now. Obviously very risky, but I think he's a fine play. We'll throw her back in here. And then in terms of Moody, I don't know what to do with him. He's kind of like a Torian Prince where you really don't trust the minutes here with him. 3.9. I mean, he's been fine. He's been aggressive off the bench, but really hard to trust his minutes. Would rather take that kind of minute dart throw on a guy like Looney, who could be very valuable when it comes to defense against Sabonis. And then moving on to the Kings here, going to be the chalkiest team to throw in your lineups just because they played, I think it was an 8-man rotation of Sabonis, Fox, Murray, Ellis, Barnes, Lyles, and Mitchell that last game there in their must-win against Phoenix. And they pretty much played the starting five all 40 minutes. So I expect everyone to start their lineups off with pretty much Sabonis, Fox, and Murray just because they're all underpriced there, extremely underpriced at those price tags. Expect 40 minutes out of pretty much every single one of those three guys there. And then it's going to be hard not to lock in Sabonis. It's going to be hard not to lock in Fox. And it's going to be hard not to lock in Keegan Murray when they're all going to see 40 minutes and they're all very, very cheap. So everyone loves them, but for good reason. In terms of the rest of the team here, obviously Ellis at 4.5. He's been playing massive minutes and he saw 33 in that last, must-win game against the Suns. He's been a little bit more aggressive recently. I expect that number to drop, especially in the playoffs. Expect Sabonis, Keegan Murray, Fox to kind of take over here. So I expect Ellis's numbers to go down. And if he's super, super chalky, I would not, mind fading him at 4.5. Harrison Barnes, I don't mind him just because, he's not going to be super, super aggressive when he's out there, but he's going to see a ton of minutes. 40 minutes. He could still have this game where he does very, very bad, but still go for 20 plus fantasy points at 4.3. More than worth it there at that price tag. And then Trey Lyles and Davion Mitchell are going to be the main two guys off the bench here. Trey Lyles obviously risky, but should see around 20 minutes. And then with Davion Mitchell, kind of the same thing here. Point guard, shooting guard eligible. He should see anywhere from like 15 to 22 minutes. And I'd rather take a shot on him compared to Ellis, even though Ellis is going to see a lot more minutes just because in terms of ownership, I think, Davion Mitchell is a solid pivot play off Ellis. So I expected the main stars to kind of shoot the ball more, be more aggressive, which obviously eats into Ellis's ability to shoot the ball. So that's my thoughts there on this slate. So if we're going to fill in like one more guy here for you guys, I don't mind going to either Zion to get a little bit different on the slates or go to like AD or LeBron because I expect most people to throw in 3 to 4 Sacramento Kings, probably jump over to the Lakers, throw in one of the main stars here for the Lakers, and then possibly like a Steph or a Draymond. I expect that to kind of be the popular build. So if you want to get different, obviously you go away from those guys. But right now, there's not a ton of value. If we're looking at value, Under 5,000 is very risky. I mean, Wiggins, Pods, Ellis, Dinwiddie, Barnes, Daniels, Hayes, Alvarado, Moody, Lyles, Marshall. Very, very, very risky plays. All those guys are not guaranteed to see a ton of minutes. And even if they are, 12 to 20 minutes, they could still hurt you at those price tags. So it's going to be interesting to see in terms of ownership tomorrow. And once we get more clarity on like what the Lakers are going to do with their stars. And I would not be surprised if, one of the teams throws it in that first game so they don't have to play the Nuggets. But right now, I see the popular build is going to jam in those Kings and kind of build from there with either like a star from the Lakers or a star from the Warriors like Steph. So right now, obviously, earlier core play is going to be Fox, Herb Jones, Larry Nance. I think you have to. And then I wouldn't say Kevon Looney. I'll throw in one more for you guys here. I'm going to go right now with LeBron, but obviously Sabonis, AD both look fantastic. So once again, kind of just wait for the injury news. Obviously, very early slate breakdown. We can get a bunch of random news, by the time tomorrow morning before this slate starts. You never know. So make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.